Hey, Status D, please like and subscribe. Please click on the Deck Heroes icon, click on subscribe. It's 100% free. We know, blood in, blood out. Anyway, this is one of my favourite people, the Dry Creek Wrangler. I don't agree with him on anything regarding politics, you know what I mean? He's from another part of the world and he's a wrangler, horse wrangler. But he does have a very interesting perspective on loneliness. He's had I think 700,000 views on this one. Probably got things to say. Let's see what he's going to say.
A really bad situation in this country. A video link of a guy, and he was talking about in this country, the numbers of when it comes to suicides, when it comes to homelessness, when it comes to prisons, the numbers of men in these situations are astronomically than women. And then this same guy read a lot of the feedback from women, and it was horrible. They were celebrating the fact that men are three times more likely to commit suicide. I just can't, and it's no wonder good men in this world are backing away from women and saying, look, this is not right. And when this attitude pervades, I'm not sit there and say we're only about equality. Let me give you a thought, ladies. I'm gonna get a lot of grief for this. And I don't care. I don't know you, and I ain't scared of you. Okay? If a man is here, equal, and the only way you can get equal is to band together and tear him down so that you can be at his level, you're not equal.
I think he's got something there, not just about feminism, but anybody in general. I think if the only way you can get equality is to bring everybody else down to your level, then there's definitely an issue there. Definitely an issue. And he did touch on a lot of men and suicide and homelessness. I work in homelessness. You know what I mean? If there's a breakdown in any kind of relationship with kids, it's usually the men that are expected to leave. Not that the concept that they can raise kids, their own kids, you know, equally or sometimes better than their partners is just kind of not even thought about. And all it takes is an allegation of some kind of physical contact. I mean, it's only going to be one way. Even if it was both ways, as long as it's one way, all it takes is an assertion and you believe in all people of one particular sex, and you are on the streets immediately. And if you don't have a car, then it's literally hard. It's like literally bum on the ground. And I haven't gone through that myself, thankfully. But I think all things considered, and male brain, that can just lead you down a tunnel, which sadly and unfortunately can also lead to the S word that he mentioned. And let's see what else he's got to say.
Okay, you're a parasite. I'm not going to go any further into that, all right? Because I will get wound up and get scratchy. Men, you're feeling isolated and alone and lonely. What do? You can't find a good woman these days, it seems like. And they're out there. Let me tell you right now, there's good women are still out there. They come through here. We meet them around, and there are still really good, solid women of values who value themselves, who value the men around them. So what's a guy to do? Look, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not trained. I don't, okay? I don't know, Uncle Dwayne. You go sit down and have a cup of coffee and a cigar and say, hey, man, I don't know what to do. Just give you my view. Maybe it'll help. Maybe it won't. Some people, and I understand personalities. I understand there's difficulty in this. Like, for me, I'm comfortable in my own head. I'm very comfortable alone for hours at a time, for days at a time. It doesn't mean I haven't felt loneliness. It doesn't mean that I don't feel lonely at times. It's not something I can't deal with. And to me, from what I see, is the one, let's think this through, the one companion outside of God. If you follow God, if you believe in God and you have him, then there's always a friend that sticketh closer to a brother. But we're talking about the human issue. The one companion that's always going to be with you is yourself. And I think the first thing we have to do is we have to get ourselves to the point where we don't necessarily need a companion. Now, when God created, in the Bible, when God created Adam, and then he looked down, he looked at Adam, he said, it's not alone.
I don't want to be controversial right now. I think there's a lot of men that are raised in an emotional environment, let's just put it that way, more so than the objective environment. And you actually get men who don't think like men, and that doesn't prepare them for the world that they're going to be in. the world that they're going to be in is that you need to be self-reliant. And I mentioned about the few of the drivers towards male homelessness a little bit earlier, but in other ways, as men meant to take traditional roles in many other aspects. You know what I mean? Paying first and paying for that and being provided, and fair enough if your partner happens to be pregnant, and who's going to support you and that child, or that child to be? It's you. You know what I mean? So you can't afford to overly be subjective or an emotional thinker. You need to be planning ahead and preparing for the future. You know what I mean? And it's just this conflict right now where, say, men are being raised in households where maybe that primary carer is an emotional thinker, and in no way prepares them for real world where, as a man, your role is different to that primary caregiver. I don't want to get too, I don't want to get too much into that, but I think that is a contributor to the things that he's talking about right now.
That's why he created Eve. It's not ideal. It's not ideal, but it's sometimes it beats the alternative. And ladies, it's the exact same thing. It's better to be by yourself than it is to be with a bad man. But sometimes we choose less than ideal companions, because to us that beats the alternative of not having any companion. And the reason why we face the concept of not having any companion is because we're not comfortable with ourselves as a companion. We don't want to be left alone by ourselves with ourselves. So we come in and we sit down and we get on our phone, or we turn on the TV, or we go wherever, we do whatever, because we don't want to face the reality of being by ourselves with
so I got a 2-1 in psychology, but it's more so as an older man, not older. We're not built to be alone. We can be alone. We can cope alone to an extent. I mean, if everybody had that perspective, it'd be end of world. And the fact that the world's not about to end is proof perfect that we do prefer to be amongst other human beings, whether that's friendship or kind of relationships. But I think, I think he's going to the extreme in order to make a point in that you need to be happy within yourself and not necessarily need others, and you don't need others to be happy. And I think that is a healthy perspective in its own way. So and okay, let's see what else he's got to say.
And so, fellas, I would say one of the things I would recommend that you look into is start making yourself a companion that you're comfortable with. Now that sounds kind of maybe not real mainstream, but if you had a person you want to sit down and spend all the time with, what would you want from that person? What would you want? Well, I would want to spend time with somebody who's honest. Makes sense? I don't want to spend time with somebody who's going to be lying to me all the time. Someone who's going to gently tell me the truth about myself. One of the hardest things sometimes for the human to do is get to the point where they stop lying to themselves, where they tell themselves the truth. They speak the truth to themselves. Now, you got to face the reality of who you are. You got to face the reality of what you are. All right? And nobody's going to tell you that like you yourself will tell you that. You want to tell yourself the truth, but you want to tell yourself the truth in understanding and forgiveness.
Yeah, he was touching on something I was just trying to think through and kind of project forward what he was saying about friendships and people being honest with you, and I guess he means just for the greater good. I've seen some of his other videos. It seems to be that kind of greater good perspective. You know what I mean? If you love somebody, I guess the one thing they can expect from you, or should be able to expect from you, is true honesty. You know what I mean? And on the other side, for you to respect the fact that your friends have got your best interest in heart. So if they're going to mention anything, they're mentioning it with love. So whether you agree with them or not, they mention it with love, and you respect them enough just to hear them out, and you remain friends later because you got that bigger picture in mind. I think that's where he's coming from.
I look back at things in my life, and I can't say it was somebody else's fault. I can't say I didn't do that. I can't say this is why I did that, so that made it all right. All the way back, our entire lives. So I got to tell myself the truth. Yeah, that was not okay. At the same time, I have to tell myself that you're a human, and you made it right, and you're making it right, and it's okay. It's okay. Wherever you've been in the past, that's bad. If you're not still there, Your companion, which is yourself, needs to feel free to tell you it's okay. That was a bad place to be. That was a bad person to be. But you're not that person anymore, and you're not in that place anymore. But if you're with yourself and always beating you up, you're not going to want to be with yourself. If I'm by myself in the evening by a fire, cup of coffee and a cigar, and I'm constantly beating myself up over my failures in the past, I'm not someone that I want to be alone with.
I think he makes a good point. So I've done a few videos lately, and I guess that's potentially what he's thinking about. There's people with low self-esteem, and it really, their journey is not so much about the date. This is a dating channel. They're talking about dating a lot of the time, and the journey should be about fixing self first, and I don't want to say self-love because that could be taken the wrong way, but just empowering self. I say that again, I've said it many times. Looking your best, and that's going to be by being physically healthy. I think that's good for the endorphins anyway, and at the end of the day, this is an organic body. So if you're eating well and looking after it, what you put in is what you get out. And yeah, just kind of looking just even if it's about how well you can facilitate conversations, things like that. So even if you kind of, this is going to sound really sad, right? And there's going to be better techniques, but it's only one that comes to mind. Even if you kind of plot out, and this is going to appeal to men because objectively you can understand why, things that you can talk about in a relationship, you know what I mean, and how you can flesh those conversations out just as a thread of thought. And yeah, potentially that'll be somewhere in the back of the mind, and you'll find conversations easier to do if you don't already, that type of thing. Anyway, let's crack on.
Does it make sense? All right? You got to make yourself. And then the next thing I would want from a companion is I would want someone who is encouraging, who sees the possibility in the future, who gently pushes me and encourages me to get out of the rut, to get out of the hole, to get out of the sheepfold, out of the swamp that I'm in. Go on and do better. You want someone who's going to encourage you. Well, if you don't have somebody who's going to do that, become that somebody. And again, now fellas, I'm blessed. I mean, I've got mama. Okay, I'm not speaking. I've got something a lot of you guys don't. I have mama, but at the same time,
I don't know who mama is. I don't think mama is mama. I think he's talking about his wife, right? I think he's talking about his wife, the mother to his kids. But he himself, oh my God, that's deep, man. You know, just thinking about that Oedipus complex. So if that is his wife, and he goes to bed with his wife every day, calls her mama, hey, something wrong with you, boy. Now, let's see what he's got to say. Other than that,
I have a very comfortable relationship with myself. All right, and sometimes if you don't have someone like mama, yourself is what you have, and you need to encourage yourself, and you need to be able to encourage yourself and say, look, I'm not stuck here unless I choose to stay here. I get people get on the channel all the time and they're like, Dwayne, you're out of touch. You don't know what you're talking about. You're out in the country. Those of us in the city, we don't have that opportunity. Well, now, I've been in a lot of cities, and I've never been in a city that had a big wall around it that wouldn't let you out. If you actually want to leave, you actually want to get away from the crime, from the homelessness, from the situations that are being bred in the cities today, leave. Now, sometimes you can't. I'm not totally stupid. Sometimes you can't. But a lot more of you can than can't. Now, it takes courage. It takes courage. It takes sacrifice. I mean, I read and in some of these cities, and I read what's going on in these cities, politics and the crime and the homelessness and the cost of living and the cost of rent and the cost of groceries and the inability to do all this stuff. I'd sell everything I could sell, put enough in a backpack, and I'd walk out. I'd sell my car, I'd sell everything. Don't tell me it can't be done. Watch the video on there. I hitchhiked and took a bus from Tennessee to Cody, Wyoming, and picked up cigarette butts in a campground for soup and a sandwich and a place to stay, not a job. Now, that job was $350 a month, but it included a room and a bus, and it got me started. Don't tell me it can't be done. It takes guts, and you need to have a companion. You need to be a companion that's going to gently encourage you and give you the courage to take that next step and to do better and to be better.
I don't know if you need a companion in order to encourage you, but I think maybe he's still talking about that look in the mirror and be the companion that you want to be, the person that drives you forwards. And also he made an excellent point about, listen, don't wait for this mystery parachute to come from the sky and and set you on your path as a man. You find your path as a man. He didn't make any excuses. He was picking up cigarette butts, he said, in order to get a meal for the day, and then his next step was just getting a low-paying job, but included his board and his food, and that was the foundation he had before he moved on to the next thing and next thing and next. And little did you know, now he's got a YouTube channel with millions of views, and he's got his own ranch and a big school and all those horses and stuff. So start by doing and stop making excuses. This is men being men and plotting your own path. Own it.
Oh, guys, I know that the physical aspects of a relationship, I know that they're positive. I know that they are things that is hardwired in us to search for. But it's not something we gotta have. It's not something we have to have. And the hell that you go through with these relationships, just in order to have someone to sleep with from time to time, is not worth the destruction that it's doing to your soul and to your spirit, to your life. It's not worth it. Become your own man. Become your own man. If these feminazis want to burn their own world down around them, let them do it. You don't have to be in it. You don't need their world, and you don't need them. You don't need them. I was reading it.
All right, there's a lot of videos about men opting out, and he seems to be on the opt-out thing about it. He's specifically talking about one group of women. I think really what he's saying, or should be saying, is listen, you may need to look a little bit harder for what was quote unquote traditional women who kind of fair-minded, but they're definitely out there. I've met plenty, and there's more and more who are also noticeable by their kind of dysfunction or toxic kind of behavior and expectations and attitudes. Yeah, leave them to be them. But yeah, just continue the search. But if you find your queen, just be a bit more kind of, listen, I'm not letting this go, and just don't blow it. You know what I mean? I think we do have a longer time. We don't have that body clock. But if you find your queen, don't let her go.
And I'm like, if these women have their way, are they going to get out and asphalt these highways? Are they going to get up on these high lines and do this? I'm not saying they can't, but I'm saying they dang sure won't. Are they going to do sewer lines? Are they going to go into burning buildings and haul people over their shoulder down off the ladders? Here and there's one, but women as a whole are not going to do this. And that's fine. They can live their life as they want, watching women. But I am really fed up with this whole feminazi movement that is destroying the young men in this country. And nobody can destroy you if you won't let them. All right? You're a man. You are a man. Stand up and be a man. Make the hard decisions. Make the sacrifices. Make the unpopular decisions.
I am going to stop it there. Just to quickly. If people are trying to convince you left is right and right is left, and you can see with clarity that it's all BS, just don't listen. When it's repetitive and people are boxing you in, you may well kind of get drawn into this delusion yourself. So if left is left, fine. But if they're trying to say right is left, and it's sort of that delusional perspective, listen, be true to self, because that road is insanity of delusion. My gosh.
In your own skin. And if you are not a person that you are comfortable being alone, that is the one person in this universe that you have full power, full right, and full responsibility to change. Okay? I don't have the right. I don't have the desire to, and I do not have the right to try to change my wife's personality and who she is. I don't have the right to anybody except myself. Now, there's people out there I don't like, and if I don't like them, I just walk away. I'm 55 years old. I've done without that person my whole dang life. I don't need them now. And I don't have the right or the desire to try to change them. But if I don't like me, if I'm not comfortable being with me, well, that's a different story. So, it doesn't provide all the answers. Probably doesn't provide any answers. I don't know. But maybe there's a little bit of encouragement there. Maybe there's a little seed, a little step, a little something that you can say, hey, you know what? I think that'll help me. And listen, just be strong. Stay strong. Ladies, I'm not bashing women, but I am bashing this godless, hateful movement that is destroying this country and destroying the men in this country. Okay? It's not. And fellas, just let me add one more thing here, all right? I'm choosing my words. Give me a moment. It is human nature. It is human nature when a pendulum swings too far one way. When a pendulum swings too far one way, we react and swing that pendulum too far the other way. For every action, there is an equal and option. Don't be hateful, mean, and derogatory to women, right? I am hearing weekly boxer somewhere who has been all the rage.
I think the recording's literary, so I'm going to pause it and sometimes, but yeah, and some kind of middle ground perspectives. I like that pen. So it is not to go from one extreme to the other extreme, and how often does that happen? Is that happening right? It's not. It's to go from that kind of one extreme to equality, not to this. You know what I mean? But I think maybe we're kind of that zone at the moment, or the momentum and pushing that zone instead of this zone in the middle.
There's some studies right, but pendulum are the and some men we're not how once you're with women.
Yo, it's still. I think we're at the end of the video point, so yeah, I hope it's very useful. Listen, every single somebody says, another person says they're going to agree with. It's just food. You're not necessarily going to agree with him. I don't agree with everything. You're not necessarily going to agree. You're not going to agree with me on everything. It's just food for thought from an honest place. And don't forget, click on the icon, click on subscribe. It won't do it itself, but it's 100% free. Please like, subscribe.